Hello everyone, my name is Parashar. I'm a senior program manager on the AI platform team, which has Azure Cognitive Services, Azure Machine Learning, and many of the AI offerings. I'm based out of Seattle, and today I'm going to talk about what's inside text analytics. Let us look at how AI models are used in different solutions in the industry today. So it can be used in chatbot, it can be used to detect alerts like in a factory setting. It can also be used to detect tumors from scans or CT scans or x-rays. It can also be used for automating your documents workflow. And of course, you might know that these are used in self-driving cars. So basically autonomous driving. And to create these AI models, you need data set and you need powerful machines. But with the advent of cloud, now you can actually leverage the public cloud offerings like Azure and use some of the out of the box models. So in Azure, we have Azure Cognitive Services. These are pre-built AI models which any developer can use by just sending data and then getting a response back. Now, let us look at a little bit more into the ecosystem around Azure Cognitive Services, or I should say the solutions around Azure Cognitive Services. So as you can see here on this slide, we have bot service, we have cognitive search, we have form recognizer, we have video indexer. And the idea here is that these are scalars or solutions which are kind of end to end depending on the industry and the type of use case, and it combines multiple cognitive services into one. When I say multiple cognitive services means like if there is vision related pre-built model, there is language related pre-built model, there is speech related pre-built model. So all these models can be used in a single end-to-end scalar offering, and it makes it easy to use these models. And of course, if you cannot use these out of the box models, then you can create your own custom machine learning model with your own data with Azure Machine Learning. Today's focus is text analytics, which is a type of Azure Cognitive Service, and then there are different operations which are possible within text analytics. So there are different APIs within text analytics which you can call, and the similar thing happens, or similar approach you can take even for other cognitive services, right? So there is a main cognitive service type, and then there are sub features which you can use. And it's very easy to get started, and I'll show you some demos as well as we go along. So when I say Azure Cognitive Services, pre-built AI models, what does it mean, right? So the question you might have is, okay, will it serve my use case? Where does the data reside? Does Azure store the data? So let us discuss those things, right? So the first thing is, no, we do not store your data when you use these cognitive services. So it stays in your blob storage or Jupyter notebook or wherever you are calling these APIs, right? So you just send the data and you get a response back. Now we save the response until the timeout if it's an async offering, so that is there, but we don't actually save your raw text as is, right? So the response might have text, and that way but that's how it is. The other thing you have to note is like what kind of use cases are possible, right? So most of these cognitive services, these are trained using public data sets oftentimes, and donated data set. So certain customers actually work with us, and to improve our AI models, they are willing to donate their data set. And basically we have close partnerships with them, and that's how we keep on improving the data set and try to address as many use cases as possible. Now, of course, there can be scenarios when all use cases are not possible, and that's when you can customize these offerings in different ways, right? So if we look at, like, say, language, text analytics is part of language, right? And then you use a sentiment related model or a key phrase extraction model, but it doesn't align with your business scenario. So what you can do in that case is you can actually customize it by calling the language understanding or Lewis offering, and then build a custom model. Similar thing is with vision. Like, say, the out of the box computer vision pre-built model doesn't help you. In that case, you can customize it. So every pillar over here, or every major category, like, say, vision, speech, language, decision, each of these have bunch of services which are pre-built, and then each of these have a custom offering which you can use. And oftentimes, like, the amount of data which is needed to start with this custom services is much less than what you would need if you are building a model from scratch using Azure machine learning or your own out of the box machine learning algorithms. So that is something you have to keep in mind. Okay. And we are going to talk about text analytics. So I'm going to do a deep dive into it. You will see a lot of demos, and I'll also talk about what's new. So before doing that, let's talk about some of the differentiators, right? So a lot of these services actually have reached human parity. And so what does it mean by human parity? Basically, if a human being was asked to do a certain task, like, say, translation, and if the AI model performs in a comparable manner, like, say, it achieves the same accuracy, for example, or better, then we say it's human parity. So a lot of these models actually have achieved human parity, or in some cases have even exceeded what human beings can do. The other thing to note is these models can be run anywhere. So it can be run from public cloud, or it can also be run on containers. And then we have a lot of GA regions. So as you know, Azure is available globally in many countries and many regions. So these services are offered in many countries, many regions, and then they are all compliant, right? So we have all the certifications and everything that you need, right? And we'll go deeper into text analytics, so you'll get to know, like, what languages are supported and things like that. So what is text analytics, right? So it's a pre-built language offering, and it's the goal is to simplify your AI apps, or goal is to simplify creation of your AI apps wherever you need to process text and or analyze text, right? So you can extract key phrases, and that's what we call as key phrase extraction. So these could be nouns, verbs, actions, basically things like that, even locations, person. So there are lots of categories actually as part of it. Then there is language detection, straightforward, right? So you send input text, and then you get the detected language back. There is entity recognition and linking. So we call it NER, or named entity recognition. And then linking would basically link these identities with a public URL reference. So that's how it is. And then my personal favorite, sentiment analysis, right? So and then there are sub offerings with each of these. So there is something called PII, right? Personally identifiable information. So PII detection and redaction, which is part of entity recognition. And then there is opinion mining, which is a part of sentiment analysis. So these give you more capabilities, and we'll see demos around it. Now, uh, each of these offering can be accessed through a hosted API in the public cloud, or can be accessed through an SDK. So depending on whether you are a C# developer or a Python developer, and we support other languages, you can use the Azure Text Analytics SDK. Just do a pip install, and it will install on your in your environment, and you can use it. And then you can also use these models in containers. So these are connected containers. So they are connected to Azure for billing, but when you use the containers, your data doesn't leave your container, right? So you can use some of these services even in containers. So that's how versatile text analytics is. Now, let me first talk about what's new in 2020. Right? So, we improved the coverage in terms of the categories which are supported in NER. We added new capabilities, and I already mentioned PII detection and redaction. So, redaction, for people who don't know, is like when we detect PII information, we replace it with asterisk, but you do get the response of what was redacted, right? So you do have it, but if you have to expose that output, then you can just expose the asterisk. And then we have the PHI detection and redaction, which is also there. In addition, we launched text analytics for health, and the idea here is to simplify key phrase extraction, named entity recognition from health related information, and we'll see the demo for that as well. We launched a new version for sentiment analysis. I call it V3. And then we launched opinion mining. And the idea here is to get even more granular sentiments with opinion mining. And then we launched the latest version of key phrase extraction, which improves the accuracy and the detection, basically. And the latest that we launched in November 2020 is async API, which we call as Analyze API, for analyzing large amount of text. And when I say large amount of text, is basically the current API, or the one which is in GA or general availability past many years, we call it sync API, right? Because the response time is very less, and it's in few milliseconds you can actually get a response back. And that one has a limit of 5120 characters, or 5000 characters roughly. So what we heard from customers is, okay, we want actually more data to be processed. So that's where the asynchronous API, or async API, was launched. The response time is in few seconds, right? So you have to, if you use the SDK, then you get the response back. But if you directly call the API, then you have to poll it based on the job ID. And then the good thing is you can send up to 125,000 characters, 125K characters as part of it. So that's a summary of what major things we launched in 2020. And we'll go through demo for most of these items. And I'll also show you reference links in terms of how you can actually access it. Before we go into details, let me touch upon how Azure is the number one cloud in terms of the language offering. So if you are tracking the recent developments in the area of language or artificial intelligence in language, then you might be hearing things like BERT and transformer based models and GPT-3 and Turing. So Microsoft has one of the biggest models, or the largest language model in the world, and it has 17 billion parameters. So as you can see from this graph, in just past 2 years, the number of parameters in these AI models have exponentially grown. And this is primarily because more computing power is available, the cloud is becoming more powerful, and of course the transformer based approach is changing how we build this model. So some of the services that we have in language offering actually use these models are, and others are on track to use this. In terms of language coverage, right? So uh, when I say this is like how many languages a human speaks, so you know there are hundreds and probably thousands of languages, which are, but then out of these, the core languages or the major languages are few, right? So it could be few hundreds probably, and so our goal is to make text analytics available in as many languages around the world as possible. So depending on the type of service you are looking at, this is the current language support as of 2020, and we keep on expanding. Every few months we will see new languages being released. So at least in last 3 months, we launched, if I can talk about, like, say, sentiment analysis, then we launched Hindi, especially because our customers in India wanted to use sentiment analysis. And then we launched Portuguese in Brazilian locale because of the demand in Brazil. So, and similarly in other offerings as well, we keep on adding new languages, and you'll see more languages being supported in 2021 and beyond. Let's look at each of these services or the features within the text analytics service. So first, let's look at sentiment analysis v3. For people who already know sentiment analysis, in until v2 or version 2, which is GA, and version 3 is also GA now, past many months. But for v2, what we used to show is we will show positive or negative, right? So you send some amount of text in your request, and then you get a response back along with a confidence score, but that would be positive or negative. What we heard from customers is, can we have more polarity? So that's why we introduced neutral and mixed. So now you can have a document level sentiment which can be mixed depending on whether you have positive, negative, neutral. And then you can have a neutral sentiment itself. So the sentence level sentiment, which was introduced in v3, now also allows you to have neutral in addition to positive and negative. So in summary, what v3 allows is different polarities, with each score being 0 to 1, and the summation is of course 1 for all three polarities. And then you can have, in addition to the document level sentiment, you can also have sentence level sentiment, so you don't have to manually split the document, right? You can send the entire document, and then we will take care of showing you the sentence level sentiment for it automatically. And then of course we have improved the accuracy significantly, and we keep on improving these as we go down further. So as we add new data sets, and we cover more use cases and domains. So that's sentiment analysis v3. Then the new service we launch is what we call as opinion mining. This is an extension of sentiment analysis. So sometimes what happens is the document level sentiment or the sentence level sentiment may not be very useful. So it might be useful to know that this is the sentiment at a document or a sentence level. But if you want to take a specific action, then you might have to drill down, and actually you will need more information, right? So that's where we launch something called opinion mining. And the idea behind opinion mining is to give you the keywords or the actions, right, which you can take. So it will extract something called as opinion, which is an adjective associated with a noun or a verb, which is called an aspect, or the subject, kind of that, right? So that's what you can think of. And now, because you have this additional information, you can actually take some actions as part of it, and we'll see some demos. But that's the idea behind opinion mining, and we are seeing customers trying out different scenarios for this. So it opens up a new category of use cases. So in case sentence level sentiment or document level sentiment is not of use to you, then you can still use opinion mining and gain valuable insights as part of it. Next, I'll talk about key phrase extraction. This is also in version 3. And as you see from my example, that we have improved our model in V3. And like I said, we keep on improving our model regularly, but that's the major thing. And there are better stop words as well, and more categories which can eventually show as part of the KPE, and also NER. We launched a new category. So with new V3, we have more accurate identification of categories as part of named entity recognition. And then we extended some of these categories into PII domain as well. So if these categories fall into any of the PII category, then we'll actually identify it for you. And that's what my next slide is. So in this example, as you can see, that when I send something like a social security number or a mobile phone or even an email, this is identified as PII, and then depending on whether you have set the flag for redaction as true or not, you actually get the redacted text back, right? So so it's an extension of NER. So just like opinion mining was an extension of sentiment analysis, where you call the same API but pass on an additional parameter. Similarly here, PII and redaction are also like that. So redaction is a parameter which you set along with PII to get that. And as you can see here, that we do give you the actual text that was redacted, right? So it's not like a blind spot, but then you can choose to send only the redacted text. So think of a scenario when an agent is talking to a customer on a chat session, right? Then the agent says, asks some question, and the customer knowingly or unknowingly sends some personal information, which probably the agent is not supposed to see. So in that case, this can be redacted, and the agent would see asterisks instead of the actual information. So something like that. Then I'm also very excited to share that we launched our new capability for text analytics for health in public preview this year. So earlier, like probably around June timeframe of 2020, we launched text analytics for health in containers. So it was a preview where you had to apply and then we have to approve and things like that. But recently in November 2020, now we launched text analytics for health as a hosted endpoint. So you no longer need a container and it's not a gated preview anymore. As long as you have the right key and the subscription, now you can call an endpoint and you can get a response back. Now, how is this different from the other text analytics for health services, which I talked about earlier, right? So one is, of course, like it says, it's for healthcare domain, and the use cases are focused towards healthcare sector. So when I say that, like say if a doctor has patient summary or transcription which is being there, or there's a discharge note, so these can be analyzed now with this service. And the idea here is to take the workload or reduce the workload of doctors and nurses or any of these healthcare staff and identify these entities from the input text, which can then be processed further, right? So now in this example, like you see, based on the input text, we are able to identify gender, dosage, symptoms, the medication name, and all these things, right? So these can be used in the future, like by a doctor or any medical person, to quickly and categorize, even like say you want to find out how many patients had chest pain recently, then instead of manually tagging all these patient related information, now the API itself is able to do that, and you can securely store it wherever you want to, right? So that's the benefit of it. And it's now available as a hosted API endpoint for people to try. Now we also launched something called async API. I already mentioned earlier, and I talked about the 125,000 characters earlier. And the other benefit is you can now bundle multiple operations in one request, right? So in the synchronous API or the sync API, what you have to do is, if you are calling sentiment analysis and key phrase extraction and then language detection, then you have to send three separate requests, right? So the same text, but you have to call these APIs individually. And sometimes developers actually want to combine these. So now with async API, basically now you can combine multiple operations in a single request and then get a response back. Now, the thing to note is this doesn't change billing. The pricing part stays the same. So whether you send 5,000 characters or 125,000 characters, you will still be billed based on your pricing plan. So to use async API, you have to use the standard pricing or the S tier pricing, which basically is 1,000 characters or 1,000 text records base. So, and each text record is 1,000 characters, and then it is prorated based on how many text records you send, right? So that's the pricing, and I'll show you the pricing page later, and the pricing might be different for you depending on the type of enterprise agreement you have with Microsoft. But I'll show you the pay-as-you-go generic pricing, which is there. So the pricing doesn't change whether you use sync or async. The only thing that changes is how many characters now you can send in one request now, right? So earlier, like if you had to chunk this text manually by yourself, instead of that, now you can send a lot more text, and we'll take care of analyzing it and aggregating the response and send it back to you. Okay, so that's the benefit of async. We'll roll out all the offerings in async gradually. As of now, we have named entity recognition, key phrase extraction, and PII. And you'll see sentiment, language detection also available soon. Now, let's look at some of the common scenarios where these text analytics services can be used together, right? So we have been talking about a lot of use cases already, but I wanted to call out a couple of popular ones, right? So the first one is analyzing customer care calls. So you have an audio chat session which is going on, and then this audio is converted to text. So basically you do speech to text, and you can use the Azure Cognitive Service, which is available for this. And then you can run sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, PII detection, whichever service you want to run on top of this, and then store the output somewhere, right? And then this can be used for analyzing your customer interactions, right? So it can help improve marketing, it can help improve agent training, also look at the trends, what kind of problems are happening, and also the satisfaction level, right? Because if the conversations do not happen good, then you can take some action based on that. And you can use the sync or async offering depending on the type of service, right? And also the type of latency that is expected. And then you can show this in dashboards in Power BI or whatever. So we'll see one example of how to analyze in Power BI, but yeah, it's a very common way of analyzing your analyzed output. The other common use case is around social media feeds, so be it Twitter, Facebook. You can actually analyze this in real time or in batch, and then process this to show the output in Power BI dashboard. This can help you again look at your brand loyalty and what are people talking about your brand, or are there any complaints, anything that you need to worry about, and things like that. So that's on the social media feed. The other common use case that we are seeing is around classification and redaction of documents, and primarily this is happening because we can help you find out PII information, and then you can mark certain documents sensitive or not depending on whether it has any PII information detected. So that's how it is. So these are some of the common scenarios, and I'm sure there are many more. I just wanted to touch upon a few. Let's look at the demo now. So for the demo, I'm going to show you many demos. The first one, I call it the intelligent kiosk. And this is a Windows application. The code is available in GitHub. And I'll show you how to get this demo. This website link is also available in the presentation slide. And you can actually create or build this application and even contribute to it if you would like to. So this has something called Text Analytics Explorer, and the idea here is to help you easily find out what text analytics can do and cannot do, right? So in this case, I have some sample input text, and we also support multiple languages, but I'll just stick to the example for now. So as you can see from this input text, we detected what is the language, we detected the key phrases, we detected the sentiment, and you can get both document level sentiment and sentence level sentiment. I'm just showing the document level sentiment over here because otherwise I have to scroll a lot, but you can still get the JSON which has the sentence level sentiment, and you can show it in your dashboard. The interesting part is also the opinion mining part over here. So like I was telling you earlier, opinion is the adjective which is associated with the noun or the verb. So that's the aspect or the subject. And then depending on the sentiment of the opinion, you can actually figure out what's the subject or the aspect's opinion, right? So when it says, when someone says the place is impeccable and it's kind of that, or the menu is great, then it's a positive sentiment, right? So this is basically opinion mining. Then named entity recognition. So as I mentioned, we have introduced a lot of categories, and it's able to identify a lot of these easily, as you can see. And then there are entity linking, which is there. And even though I'm not showing PII output, that is also available over here. So this is a quick demo on how text analytics can help you analyze your text. Now, one thing to note is, even though the output is being shown in a tabular continuous form, you have to call each of these APIs separately, and I'll show you how to do that. So it is not like you get an aggregated output for all the APIs that you see here. Some of the APIs, yes, if you use the async, but if you use the synchronous API, then each of the API request is a separate call, okay, and then you can aggregate it manually. So that is on the overall text analytics. Now let us look at step by step. So first I'm going to show you how to call this API, right? So the first thing that you have to do is go to Azure portal. So portal.azure.com, I'm sure all of you know it. Then what you do is create a resource, and then you select text analytics. Once you select text analytics, you get this field, a page over here which says create, and then you can give a name, right? So you can give a name. This name gets associated with your endpoint as well, and then you can pick a region depending on where you are. I live in Seattle, so I'm just picking West US 2, low latency, right, if I'm picking something closer to me. And then you pick a resource group depending on where you want now, and then you select create. once you create an on the pricing, I recommend that you use standard pricing. That is the one which is which has access to the most number of capabilities and the lowest cost as well. And then you can pick a resource group. Now for this demo, I already have a pre-created one offering, so or the service, and once you create the service, you get this kind of a page, and then you see on the left hand side I have keys and endpoints. So that's where you go, and once you go there, you can actually get the key and the endpoint, right? So these two are needed for you to call the service and authenticate yourself. Only then you will get a response back. Okay, so you have to use these two in your code. So this is how easy it is to create a resource for your text analytics cognitive service. Now, once you have this resource, I have this sample notebook which is available, and I provided that resource as part of it when calling it. And then you actually send documents like this. When I say document, it's not like a physical document. We just refer to it as a document, but it is basically the text that you want to analyze. So you can send multiple documents as part of each request, and each document can have multiple sentences within it. You can also combine multiple languages. So in this example, as you can see, I'm already combining English, Spanish, and Hindi as part of the same request. And then you call the sentiment endpoint over here. So V3 is the latest one, or you can even use V3 3.1. And then you suffix it with sentiment or whichever other operation you are actually calling, right? So that's on the sentiment endpoint API. And then when you run it, I already ran it before just to save time, but you get a response back like this, and then you'll get a response for every document, right? So your ID is your document. So this is number 1, which is English, right? And then let's look at number 2, which is the Spanish one, and then number 3, which is Hindi. So you get everything like this back, and then you can parse this JSON and use in whichever way you want to. So that's how easy it is to call an API. Now, like I mentioned earlier, opinion mining is an extension of sentiment analysis, right? So you use the same sentiment endpoint, but you add this parameter opinion mining equal to true, and then send the document back. And now, in addition to the document and sentence level sentiment, you also get opinions and aspects or subject back, right? So and then the confidence score which is associated with it, and then you can process it. Now, to give you an example of how you can leverage this, I have a Power BI demo which is there. So in this case, what I have done is I am analyzing IMDb comments for movie reviews basically, and I send all this to the opinion mining service, and then I get a response back which I have parsed over here. And now you can see that I'm able to get full sentence level sentiments, then opinions which are positive, negative, and associated aspects or subjects. So that's how it is. Now I can also do a drill down. So if I select best, for example, then I know which sentences have it. But this might be just like an aggregated view, but I can drill down deeper into like which were the positive sentiments, which were the negative sentiments, and so on and so forth. The interesting thing is, like, sometimes your sentence can be positive, neutral, and may not be negative, but your so sentence sentiment can be different from the opinion related sentiment. Okay, so that's an interesting thing what I find, that helps you actually do a drill down. And this is one example where the sentence was positive but the opinions were negative, and you can see more examples over here, right? So this helps you take some action. And then you can also drill down deeper into like what people are talking about the movie. If like you're planning to direct your next movie, you can look at this results and find it out. Similarly, in this demo, I have a positive filter, so all the positive sentiments are there, and then you can do a deeper dive, and similarly mixed, right? And of course there can be scenarios where there are no opinions as well. When can this happen? This can happen when, like, there are no identifiable opinions associated with a particular aspect, or there are no opinions at all, or it could be that it's beyond the boundary sometimes. So we look at sentence level stuff from a document. So if it is beyond that, then we won't be able to show it to you right now. So that's a demo of sentiment analysis, opinion mining, and any other service that you want to call using the API. Okay. Now let's look at a demo of key phrase extraction, entity recognition, and PII. And in this case, for a change, what I'm going to do is, instead of using the sync API, right, I'm going to use the async API, which is a new one. And in here, I have a small paragraph, but I can even send a lot more text. Like I said, 125,000 characters, but just for the sake of demo, I have a short text over here. And then what you have to note is the way in which you call it, right? So in this case over here, like you see, I have the method which calls the async API, and you start it with begin analyze. So it was the synchronous API, then you would individually call each API or the function. So it would say begin sentiment or something like that. But in this case, it is begin analyze, and then you club all the things that you want in a single request, and then you get a response back. Now it takes a minute or so, so I already ran it beforehand to save time, and let me show you the output, right? So in this case, as you can see, the output has key phrase, and then PII, and named entity recognition. Okay, so that's on the async demo. And now, so what all did we see until now? We saw an overall demo with the kiosk, which showed you what all is possible with text analytics and how to use this. Then we saw the Jupyter notebook for sentiment analysis, opinion mining, and the same approach can be used for any other offering to call the API. Before going to that, I also showed you how to create the text analytics resource to use in your notebook, right? And then finally we saw VS Code, where I have the SDK which is installed on my laptop, and then I'm calling the async API. Okay, so these are the different demos that I wanted to show you, and then let's talk about how to call this, and then we'll go to text analytics for health. So the first thing is, if you want to call the text analytics API, you go to Azure Documents or Azure Docs, just search for text analytics, and then you land up on this page, and we have a very nice how-to guide which shows you, like, what is possible between each languages, between each operation, what is possible with synchronous, what is possible with asynchronous, and then how to call it, right? So we have examples for you. There's a GitHub repo, and then there is a guide which will walk you through it step by step. And then you can also go deeper into each of these operations. So even there we tell you, like, what is in preview, what is in GA, what is the service about, and then we explain to you that, okay, how does the service work, and then we show you the sample request and response. So it's very easy to get started with it. And then we have a GitHub repo associated with this SDK, and I'll provide that link as well to you, so you have it. But this is the main GitHub page with all the samples which are there. Okay, so this is how you call the API. And then the quick starts for the SDK is available in Azure documentation, and also the HTTP post request if you are using Postman, something like that. Now, I also wanted to show you, like, the language support. So as you can see, we support a lot of languages, and then each of these models also have a model version depending on the type of language that you're calling. So that is there, and then every service has a different set of languages, and more languages will um, keep on getting added. And you can see we work very hard actually to support as many languages as possible. The other thing which I wanted to show you is the data limits for you to keep in mind. And this is independent of the pricing, like I said. So data limits is primarily how much text you can send in one request and how frequently you can send it. So the request size is 5,000 characters or 125,000 characters, depending on whether you are using sync or async. These are number of documents. But something to keep in mind, depending on the pricing tier, you have a restriction in terms of how many requests you can send per second. And this is primarily to protect the service from the DOS attack or something like that. But yeah, that is something to keep in mind. So what this means is, like, say if you send one request or 1,000 requests in 1 second, then you have to wait for remaining 59 seconds before you send the next request. Or if you stagger it, then you have to ensure that in total you do not send more than 1,000 requests per minute, right? So that's how it is. So these are on the data limits and rate limits for every service. And then let me talk about pricing. But before I talk about pricing, I should show you text analytics for health demo. So you already saw this in the slide. So it is similar, but I'll just walk you through in terms of what happens. Now, this one is using a dedicated UI that we have just for the demo purposes, but you can parse the JSON and see it in whichever way you want to. But I sent some text over here, and then it found out the age. Then you can see even the UMLS code, which is related to US health sector. So that is there, and then you can identify the symptom, time, and things like that, right? So this is on text analytics, and depending on the industry or where you're working on, like you can probably leverage this. So that's the last demo which I wanted to show. And then I want to talk about pricing. So the way we price the service is primarily based on text records. Now we do have transaction based pricing, but soon this will be we plan to move away from transaction based pricing and have everyone use only the text records or the standard pricing which is there, right? So even the free tier will change to text record based pricing the way you have to think of it is one text record, and this is how even the competition charges. So this is like an industry norm, not just in Azure, but that's how it is. So one text record is 1,000 characters, okay? And you pay $2 per 1,000 text records. So essentially it's $2 per million characters, but the granularity is 1,000 characters. The good thing is if you send just one text record or 100 text records, then you are paying proportionately. So if you send 100 text records, then it's not that you have to pay the full $2. You pay 20 cents accordingly, right? And this is for West US, but accordingly the pricing will be there for every region in which the service is offered. So that's how it is. And all the offerings have the same pricing. So like if you are bundling it, then you are charged individually for it. We take care of it. You don't have to worry about it in terms of separating it. But every call or every request is calculated for pricing accordingly. And TA for health, the good news is it's free right now. So while it is in public preview, you can use it for free. And also, like I showed you PII detection, and I also showed you opinion mining. So in case you are wondering why it is not here, because they are an extension of sentiment analysis and NER or named entity recognition respectively, right? So to use sentiment analysis along with opinion mining, you are paying the same price. So there is no extra premium to for using opinion mining. And similarly, there is no extra premium for using PII right now, primarily because opinion mining and PII are in preview. So that's also something to know about. You can actually also go to the page where we show you all the details on what are the capabilities, the features, and this is also available over here. And then we also have some case studies, so in case you are curious to know like who is using this service, right? So we have some case studies which are published as well on the main homepage for marketing. So that's on the demo, and I do have a link for, or all the links for you to explore, which are available. So these are all the references which might help you, and it should help you get started, and also look at all the demo and wonderful resources that we have. So that's it from my side. I hope this session was useful, and you are eager to try out the new offerings, and will let us know your feedback, whatever you like or don't like, and we always try to improve the offerings every few months, so your feedback is very welcome. Thank you very much.